Hello, everyone. Welcome to the final presentation of the day. I'd like you to meet Doris. Yes, so Doris is a country director at Shortlist here in Kenya. She's got about 13 years experience in learning and development and in leadership development, as well as talent acquisition and employability strategies. Doris has facilitated discussions across public and private sector in regards to youth unemployment, and she has a very deep passion for helping people to navigate the future of work. And her experience to date has included team management, project implementation, and partnership development, and a very entrepreneurial working style. Yeah, so today Doris is going to be taking us through an extension of what we've been discussing today, and really it's about reviewing yourself, reviewing what it is that lies ahead for you, and yeah, just making plans for it. Yeah, and so we can say in a bit it's partly reskilling, but I believe there's a lot more that Doris has put in place for you. So again, it's your session, so please take the moment to ask questions and to comment, yeah, and enjoy yourselves. So Doris, over to you.
Thank you, Beryl. Can everybody hear me? I hope so. And please put it on the chat there if you can't hear me. And yes, and thank you for the introduction and allowing me to share at this forum. And just really great job, Beryl, for putting this together. I speak very fast, so do let me know when I am at my element and going pretty quickly that you can't hear me. I would really appreciate. I am going to cover a session. Some of you have probably, we can't hear. Many people can't hear. Beryl, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. So maybe,
Okay.
I don't know, were you saying that was me that you couldn't hear, or is it Doris that you can't hear? Maybe just let us know again.
Yeah, okay. So I think my session today is going to cover what other people call the Odyssey plan. I call the what next. And it's around what do you want to do with this one wild and wonderful life that you have, especially, I think, more poignant than ever during this time. And we all resonate a lot with this vision board. We all started this year with a lot of beautiful things of what we're going to do. And I don't know how many of us had the COVID sign on our vision board for the year. I'm sure probably no one, because we did not expect this. And even if we did, not to the extent that it has covered us. So obviously, all your plans have been thrown off by COVID. Everything you thought you wanted to do and knew and was very confident about being able to do is now off. And we probably need to create other vision boards. We need to think again about what we want to do. And I'm hoping to help us just go through that process of what does that look like and what do I need to think about and consider. So the agenda is going to be really just spending a bit of time talking about COVID and its impact on our careers, and then probably focusing more on what is going to be really the center of this discussion, which is your Odyssey plan. On the chat also, I'm curious to know how many of you have ever done an Odyssey plan before. It's where you do what's your plan A, what's your plan B. If that doesn't come through, what's your plan C? And then also go through the dashboard. So for all those plans that you're putting in place, what does that look like? And then also your 3-year plan. Actually, I think I've made it into a 2-year plan because the reality is I don't think anybody can plan more than 2 years at the moment. And then also your next immediate steps. What small steps can you take to be able to go, to be able to navigate this time? So I think for me, if you come out of this session with some guidance on the direction your life could take, okay, or some ideas on the next step, we'd be very, very happy, considering we have about 50 minutes. If you're able to accomplish those 2, I will feel like I did what I needed to do. So yeah, and if you have any other goals that you would like to accomplish out of this, if you have any other goals around how can I make sure I have a contingent plan A, plan B, plan C that you want us to cover, please put it in the chat there and we can share and discuss. It's going to be a working session and we'll get into that in a bit. But I think the reason why this is resonates with me a lot is because of my career. I think there's no other platform to share and talk about the Odyssey plan than looking at my own career. So I'd like to share a bit about myself for you to understand, and just for you to see how I have used the Odyssey plan in a lot of what I have done. So I think Beryl has covered a lot of this already, which is a bit about myself. You will realize that even as I talk about myself, there's a bit of pivot into something else that is probably not my day-to-day. And so we will discuss that. But I think if you look at my experience, for example, I have been at Shortlist for about 1.5 years. Before that, I was in Career Connections. At Shortlist, I am what you can call the commercial director. So I head the sales and marketing and client success team. So I am a HR professional, certified in anything, but have moved into a completely new field, new industry. My day is spent looking at CTR rates and outbound and inbound leads. In Career Connections, I was there for 4 years, and my day was spent more in probably just helping people understand themselves, a lot of self-awareness and a lot of coaching and leadership development, and a lot of things. And I was thinking to myself as I was preparing for this session, what are the words I keep telling myself every time I want to pivot? Meaning every time I want to take a different direction. And it was interesting to sit and reflect, and it's always around, I am bored. If I have to train someone one more time, it's always around, I am bored, this can be it. I want more, I'm not really good at it. So every time I'm pivoting or thinking about a different career, these are the words I have realized I keep repeatedly thinking about myself. And so it just made me think and reflect around, it's never about money for me. Very rarely is it around how much am I earning. I have probably moved what I was earning in Career Connection, what I'm earning now is completely. It's like day and night. But again, for me, it's rarely about money. It's about what is exciting me. If you look, something else that really had a lot of impact in my career is my, what is it called? Is my education. So if you look at my education, and let's look at the top of it first. I went to a school in the village. You see this picture here? That is Kebuloni Primary School in the middle of the village, somewhere. I was lucky enough to join Muigei High School in Doris for my high school. Went off to Maseno University to do a degree in housing and interior design. If you know me, you know I cannot draw a straight line to save my life. You know there's nothing around me that is interior in any way, even my own house. I somehow did really extremely well, which just shows you how our education system is flawed. I did extremely well, and I was able to pass and do other things. And then I went somewhere along my life, I decided to do my psychology degree, and I'll talk about that later. Because, and again, this is probably the only degree that I'm like, you know what, this is what I like to do. So a lot of what I want out of my life and my Odyssey plan revolves around, how can I help others stop wasting a lot of time finding themselves and making sure that as early as possible, they're able to know exactly what is in their Odyssey plan and follow, and not spend 5 years figuring themselves out. You don't necessarily have to spend all that time. These in red are some of the countries I've been fortunate enough to work in. The green are some of the countries that I would still like to work in. Work for me is anything more than 6 months placed in that particular continent or that particular country. And that also forms, by the way, part of my Odyssey plan. So it's big around for me, trying to capture as much of the continent and different people as possible. But what will this session be useful for you for? So it will be useful for you if you have done the work to understand your next 3 years. And I'm curious to know how many of you have done the work to understand what it takes. Let's even give it 2 years. Just put it in the chat. I have done the work to understand what my next career looks like in 3 years. Or you have done the work to understand what you want out of your life. And if you haven't, also you can talk about it. But I'm curious to see how many of us have really done the work, because there's a lot of work that needs to be done before you get to the place where you now have a few options. So I'm waiting to hear from you guys. How many of you have done the work? Do you know where you want to be in the next 3, or where you wanted to be before COVID? Might also be before COVID. Yes, thank you, Elizabeth. Anybody else? So this session is only useful for Elizabeth. Oh, Josephine, thank you. I'm glad. Who hasn't done any work? Who is still trying to figure out? Yes, Tabina's 5-year plan. Let's go. Yes, let's hope it still stays relevant after COVID. Oh, wow. Okay. So you've put yours on hold. That's completely understandable. Who hasn't done any work or who is extremely confused about where they want to go next? That's still okay, and that's understandable. Yvonne, I hear you. You have done the work. Okay, understandable, Lena, that it might not be clear now with COVID, and that's completely understandable. So if it's not clear now with COVID, I hope what this gives you is just some framework to see what your future will look like once you actually have your Odyssey plan in place. All right. As I said, it might not be useful for you if you're still figuring out what you want out of your next career, or even if you're happy where you are and with what you do. So if you're extremely happy, this might be okay, Wanjiru, I hear you. This is probably very useful for you right now. So if you're happy where you are and what you're doing, this might actually not be a very useful session for you. It's only useful if you're really trying to figure out your next stage. For you to get the best out of this session, I would really like you to have a pen and a paper ready, or a Word document open, or an Excel document, something that you can be able to work on. So that's important. I'm going to go slowly because I'm assuming that in the next 1 or 2 minutes, all of you will have either a pen and a paper or somewhere to write. It will also be useful if you are able to ask questions and seek clarity. Please don't be afraid to ask as much as you can, because it's almost a mini coaching session of sorts. Yay, 2-year plan, perfect. That's actually the best, Brenda. 2-year plans are the best at the moment. It will also be useful if you're ready to challenge your assumptions. So when I do the Odyssey plan with other people, and I think you know this about yourself, all the reasons why you tell yourself why you can't do something. So if you're feeling a certain resistance, feel free to put it in the chat and let's see how we can help you challenge a lot of those assumptions. Half the time is because of fear. Half the time is because it's just been a bad year and I don't want to hope. I'm tired of hoping. I'm just going to ride the wave. And half the time is you're just not sure that, that is going to come out. So let's be open to challenge a lot of the assumptions. We also need to be ready to do the work to get the results. So again, some of this, today is really an introduction. A lot of the work will be done probably after this. And so today is just are you ready to do a lot of the work? But also don't rush the process. If you don't know what you want to be, it's fine. There's no magic that says that you have to absolutely know everything you have to be, and that's still okay. So I wanted to also just quickly go through some of the life stages that we go through as human beings. So there is about 6 life stages according to social psychology that we go through. You're a child, you're an adolescent, and then there's the Odyssey phase. The Odyssey phase is this phase, your discovery journey, where you're not sure about things, you're still figuring out what you want to do. They say it's between 19 and 35, and sometimes for women 19 and 40, where you're really just exploring. And then there's adulthood, where you're now kind of have figured yourself out. But there's a new one we call encore, which is when you have moved from money making to meaning making. So you're no longer chasing the money, you're not chasing meaning. We call it encore, and it starts usually anything from your 30s all the way to your 50s. I think it's sometimes I don't want to say wrong, but sometimes we are told that millennials are the only ones who are chasing meaning. And I'm like, no, everybody chases meaning. It's just the time they're chasing meaning. Millennials are probably chasing meaning earlier, but every single period, we will get to a point where it's no longer about how much we're earning, but how we feel about what we're earning at that particular time. So again, I don't know where all of you are. I think I am at encore half the time. Sometimes, even if I am past the Odyssey phase, sometimes I still think I'm at Odyssey. So I move along that. And you see, COVID has come and has really interfered with that. So even when you are feeling like you are in adulthood, sometimes right now, for a lot of us, we are going back to Odyssey. We are going back to almost a full self-discovery. because it's just changed. Things have really, really changed, and you're trying to figure out everything again. And it has pushed other people to retirement. It has pushed other people to encore. And so we are all in very, very different places. I think the value and what I wanted to tell you is you're here. Where you are right now is where you are, and that's okay. Whether you are at adolescent, where you're feeling you're at ODC, whether you're feeling at adulthood, encore, or retirement, where you are is okay. That's where you are. So let's start there. Probably spend less time about where you've been here longer. Just say, listen, this is where I am, this is where we are starting, and that's probably going to be more useful for you than trying to retrospect a lot. So again, something else that is really, really extremely important, and I think my colleague who has come before me has covered this, is around just proofing your career. At this time, I think it would be almost irresponsible of us to not talk about aspects like how long it's going to take to regain normalcy, probably about 2 years. And in 2 years, 20 to 35% of the jobs as we know will have disappeared. Okay, so some of the questions you need to be asking yourself is, will my job exist as I know it now? All right. So as much as we're doing your ODC plan, how do you make sure that you are continuously thinking about that? Because even the best laid plans without the reality of the kind of jobs that will be present for the next 2 years really will not make any difference. And it doesn't help that very few companies will be able to provide a clear career path, because they're also changing. This is not just affecting your career. In fact, I realize that companies are changing faster than employees, which is really interesting because they're supposed to be bigger and it takes longer. So companies are pivoting, they're completely overhauling some of their products. They cannot even tell you what your career will look like in 6 months. So to expect that to come from them is really a tough call. So you need to be able to keep a clear path in case you need to make sudden changes. That's absolutely important. So ODC plan, as I said, is going to be our focus today. It's an exercise from a book by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans. It's called Designing Your Life. How many of you have read this book? You absolutely must. It's a really, really cool book around, especially at this time. I think for me, the summary is it's okay. Like it's fine. Wherever you are, however the place you are, you can still continue. So they use design thinking to help people plan and design their careers. So instead of asking you, what is your passion and what are you passionate about? They're like, no. Let's pick design thinking of any product you can imagine. What phases does a product go through in design? And how do we duplicate that into a career and see whether that works? So it's pretty systematic and scientific, but really just helps you, especially for people who sometimes are not clear, helps you understand what you want to do. And also what I like is the fact that it's saying you have so many possibilities in life. Even if you did one today and in 6 months you realize it's the wrong one, you still have infinite other ways your career could turn out. And so there's no right and wrong choice to a career. There's nothing like that with a wrong choice. There's always some experience and compound interest that you get out of that. So the goal for the ODC plan is to map out a few ways in which your career could easily unfold. And this is my favorite quote of the book. So feel free to read it and see what you think about it. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. But we all contain enough energy, talent, and interest to live many different types of lives, all which could be authentic and interesting and productive. First of all, just that, because we are all so worried and there's so much pressure from society, especially the question, what do you do? And if you're like me from the village, HR is not something you tell people you do, because then they'll tell you, hi, I'm my cousin. But then again, so you either work in the public sector, in the government, in the hospital, anything out of that is complicated. So explaining to people, what do you do, is such a big thing. And they are saying, there's a lot of infinite possibilities and there's so many things you can be. And it's just, so it's asking someone which life is better is a silly question. It's like asking, is it better to have hands or feet? Like, it doesn't matter which one you choose. Chances are you'll be successful if you put, enough energy at it. So again, I hope your pen and paper is ready. So what we want to try and do today is design your life using 3 pathways. So one is your career as it is. Life one that I want you to have today is your career as it is. So imagine the life you already live and the one that you've already committed to. So how do you design a desired one that is sitting closer to already you have? So moving just slightly, or even just continuing with the same path, that is your life number one. So everything remained the same, ceteris paribus. That is your life number one. Life number two says, imagine the career you now have is redundant or is no longer possible. What's your other life? Okay. And then number three, which is the most interesting, is imagine your career with significant changes. Imagine if money was not an issue, you did not care about people asking you what you do, you did not care about any societal pressure. What is that career that you would have? So the next 20 minutes is where we're going to spend doing a lot of this. There's going to be a lot of writing and thinking, and as we ask ourselves what these careers might, what these three options might be. I will probably, and also there's something we call gauges. So if you've imagined yourself, say, for example, I imagined myself being the head of HR for CPA Bank, really random example. I would be able to look at the resources. So it asks you, do you have the resources, the money, the time, the skills? And you would always gauge by saying yes, maybe no. Do you like it? Like, is your heart beating? Are you feeling excited by that choice? Are you hot? Are you cold about your plan? You put it there. How confident are you? Like, is your tank full with confidence? It has to be at least half for you to do anything. So you note that. But also, does this plan make sense and align with who you are? So sometimes it's a perfect plan for resources, for liking, but it just goes against everything you believe in. It doesn't make you feel full by the time you come home in the evening. So again, and then also I have added one, is it COVID proof? This was not part of the book, but I think it's absolutely important to see how relevant is that plan in whatever you're doing right now. So this is some of the gauges that as you're thinking about and designing that life, you think about. I think let's take myself for an example. In 2016, I decided to do my Odyssey plan. So think about it. In 2016, I was a lead consultant in Career Connections. It's an absolutely great brand. You get to work with the best companies in Sub-Saharan Africa. I traveled the world. Every week or the other, I would be traveling out there, giving coaching sessions, leadership sessions to leaders across Africa. I had a lot of autonomy. I had a big team. It just had a lot of autonomy. I was paid extremely, extremely well. But then I go to a place, I'm like, is that it? Again, because that's what people do who are crazy. And I started thinking about what would it do. So my first option was, if I continued who I am and being good at what I'm doing, I'll probably become a partner, probably a GM or CEO in 2 years. So that was plan number one. It fulfilled a few things in my life. I had the resources. I was warm, extremely confident that it would work, but it was not aligned with what I wanted to be. It wasn't aligned with how I grew up. It wasn't aligned with feeling that I'm giving back enough, because I worked with only the most elite companies in Kenya. And I just felt like I'm not really helping and giving back, especially to places where I came from. So the SME, the really small money would never be able to access these services at all. And that didn't sit very well with me. And so I probably went to my career with a twist, which is what I had realized about what Career Connections was doing, and that's why they're really good in the market, is that they have some really beautiful products, but the schools that we have in Kenya does not really focus on talent management as a practice. So I said, let me try and see if I can be a talent. I want to teach this at university. I want to be able to give a lot of this information that we have back in. So that was my plan B. Plan C for me, which is, if money was not an issue, if I did not care about what anybody thought, what would I be doing? I realized that I would be teaching students and the youth figure out their careers and enhance their employability. I would make sure that they're not doing interior design when they're actually supposed to be doing HR. I will try. I would make sure that when they finish their careers, they don't go and become lifeguards in Dubai like I did, but probably try their hand at entrepreneurship. I'm not saying that, remember, we all have infinite journey possibilities. So I'm not saying what I did was wrong, but I would try and see whether people can carve their careers differently and whether that would provide them with more fulfillment faster. Okay, so this was sort of my loose Odyssey plan. So what I did, I think in 2017, because I really, really wanted to be a thought leader, is I quit my job at Career Connections. I first saved money, obviously, and then I went off to the UK to do my master's in psychology, because, again, as I say, that was absolutely important for me to be able to be seen as a thought leader in that space. And then when I came back, remember the nagging feeling behind that keeps telling me you absolutely have to do well. I consciously and thoughtfully chose to join Shortlist. I actually sent an email to the CEO, because to me, they were trying to solve a problem that was a bit closer to what I wanted to be, which is they're very passionate about candidates and making sure candidates are, the candidate journey is absolutely amazing. They give back to candidates a lot, but also they work with small players, they work with SMEs. I've seen us trying to help someone who has a one-man show build a team of 10 to 20. That to me resonated much, much more than working, and nothing wrong with KCB, absolutely, I love them, or the big, or GE, but that gave me more fulfillment as a person. So that was my plan. So again, that's sort of just an example to help you think about it. What I'd like you to do next is start thinking, and I want you to start with your imagine life number one. So with your pen and paper, I want us to start thinking about your life as it is now. So what are you currently doing? Are you a student? Are you job searching? Where you are? And just write that down. And then ask yourself the next question. If you continue with that path in the next 2 to 3 years, what does that look like? Is it a promotion? Is it credentials? What are you getting out of that? And then what are the 2 to 3 examples of activities you will do to achieve this? Say, for example, you said, if I continue, chances are if I continue the way I am, I will probably have a promotion. But what do you need to do around that now to be able to attain that? So I'll give you about 2 minutes to just do that. And then we can continue. Cool. Are we all done? And Elizabeth, thank you so much for sharing. And guys, feel free to share if you're okay with it. You can also just private share if you're not feeling like sharing with everybody else. We are all very, very different. But please, let's share so that we can all learn and see how we can think and support each other. So Anjali, you've asked a question. So there's an outcome, which is I want to. So when you say I want to get a master's, it doesn't really have. It's just an outcome. It's the thing that helps you get probably to where you're going. But where are you actually going with the master's? I guess that's my question. Is where are you? It's actually the other one. So where are you going with the master's? Master's is just a tool to help you get there. Where is the there? I guess is my question. Okay, Brenda, that makes sense. Again, Wendy, what you want to talk, let's go to plan B and see whether it matches. And I think let's do that first, and then we'll come back if it makes sense. So even as you're imagining your life one, I want you to imagine it in 3 years from today. Think about what does a day feel like, and make sure you just write them down. It's very important to write as you're thinking about it. What does a day feel like? If someone gave you a thank you note, what would it say? If you got an award, what would it be for? And imagine if you're giving a TED talk on this life one journey that you've taken. What would it be on? So let's again spend a few minutes just thinking about that. So have you imagined your life in 3 years? Are you still excited by that choice? Is that it for you? Or are you thinking, okay, did you struggle to write exactly what the TED Talk would be, for example? I'm curious to see, oh, what's a TED Talk? A TED Talk, in Kenya, it's called Engage, right? There's a TED Talk for Kenya is called Engage. It's a platform where the best minds in the fields and the industries they're in are to speak about aspects. So it's just the best platform for thought leaders to speak about things. So give an example. Chimamanda, for example, has spoken about the danger of a single story, like how you look at someone and because you've only met them for the first time, you give them a certain picture without really knowing the full story. So it's just a platform for really, really sharp, brilliant minds across the world to talk about their things, about 30 to 45 minutes. Tabby, I agree, we should want more. I always struggle with when I look at my current life, especially because after 2 years, I get very agitated by a career. I always struggle with this bit because when I look at 3 years, I'm like, man, is that it? Like, there must be more out of it. So that's the beauty about an Odyssey plan. It just helps you think there must be more out there. So we'll move to, again, so let's gauge very quickly. So if you look at that plan, do you have the resources, the money, the skills, the time, and the contacts? Chances are yes, probably. Do you like it? This is the big question now. Are you hot or cold about your plan? How confident are you? Are you feeling full? Like, are you just feeling like this one I can give 100%? But also, how does it fit with your future plans, future life? And last and not most important, but is it COVID proof? Are you designing your life to be made redundant by robots in 3 years, or are you redesigning your life to be able to be fully existing in the next 3 years? So just spend a few minutes. That's great. Okay, so it's completely full for you. Wanjiru, I'm just looking at your comments. As I said, feel free to share openly so that we all learn, or also privately. But sharing is important in case we can help you clarify a lot of the things that you're writing. Okay. Okay. So we see that, interestingly, a lot of us are not happy with themselves. Some are, and it's fine, by the way. Not everybody wants a different life. I just want to make that absolutely clear. It's just that COVID has made a lot of us reflect more. So I want us to go to life 2. Imagine your current job career was no longer possible. Was either redundant, and for some of you, that's the reality that you're in actually currently. Or for you, imagine in a month you're told, sorry, this thing is not working. We don't think we will have this job again. Yeah. So what would you do? Where do you start? And what would you be in that case? Remember, still all the other things matter. You still care about society. You still care about money. It's just that the job is no longer there. How would you imagine life 2? And what you want to do around life 2 a lot is take a look at your skills, your knowledge, you know, what you hate about your current career, job, if you do, what is important for you. So look at these notes and start imagining, what is it that I can be if it's not what I'm doing currently? So spend a few minutes thinking about that. So we have teachers, we have people who want to focus on customer care. A lot of people spend time in life two. I don't even want you to have one life if you can. Like in life two, you can have 3, 4 until you're confident about the final one you've chosen. Obviously, because we don't have a lot of time. These sessions take a long time. This was just sort of a tester. Have one, and then we can review that as we go along. Wow, Brenda, that's a lot of lives, but that's a good thing. Again, spend time thinking about life two in 2 years. What does it feel like? If someone gave you a thank you note, what would it say? If you got an award, Brenda, if you got an award for grading or tutoring students, whichever one, what would it be? Okay, or rather, what would it be for? If you're asked to give a talk, either on TED Talk, on Engage, or on a podcast, and you knew it would be seen by 1 million people, what would it be about? So again, spend time thinking about this. Cool. How are you all feeling so far? Yes, Wendy. Absolutely. How are we feeling about our life too? That's fine. Lena, remember this is work that takes a long time. Everything doesn't have to be today. It's actually the ideal situation is to have the session before the Odyssey plan with a coach, and sometimes it can take you even a month or something to just figure that out. So it's okay if you're not clear about that yet. That's completely understandable. Yeah. Again, gauge life two. For some of you who have been building castles in the air, do you have the money? Or is your runway 1 month? And then after that, you go back to your plan A. So think about whether you have the skills, whether you have the contacts, what it makes you feel, your confidence. Think about that. Okay, how are you all feeling so far? Yes, Emmanuel, I'm not surprised by that. It happens a lot. Because unfortunately, we sometimes are living our lives by default, not by design. So we are trying to say, how can we then live it by design? So yes, I'm not surprised that it's more fulfilling. Okay, so now into the big, wild, audacious goals. What would you do if money was not an issue? What would you do if money was not an issue and you did not care about your image? I have put pictures here of people that I hold extremely close to my heart because they each represent a bit of everything I want to be if money was not an issue. No, Wendy, I'll answer that in a minute. So yes, so what would you do? What would you be? So I absolutely love Chimamanda. If money was not an issue, I would just write and be this person. I don't care whether you all read it or not. I would still write anyway. I absolutely love Boniface's guts. I think it takes you not to care about society to be able to do what he's able to do. The lady in Kitenge is my best friend, and she is a big champion, has been for the last almost 10 years of HIV, lives it, speaks about it, has no qualms about whether society thinks she's supposed to talk about it or not. So just gives you ideas of what would you do if money was not an issue. For me, if money was not an issue, I would make sure every single primary school child has some idea of what their career can be. But again, that's my life and everybody else's here. For you, what would it be? So spend a few minutes thinking about it, writing it down and seeing. And I want to tell you this before you start. The reason why I'm not making you build castles in the air, the reason why this is important is that there is actually a life where you can still do a bit of your life 3, a bit of your life 2, and a bit of your life 1. So there is no hard and fast rule that you can't do everything. When I do these career talks, I'm doing my life 3. It's not everything, but I'm doing it. So again, it's beautiful to also just think about the fact that you can actually borrow and still do it. But enough about me. So spend time thinking about this one. Okay, so again, going back to it, imagine your life 3, and you can see where I've put there because I think it's the ultimate prize anybody would ever get. If someone gave you a thank you note in your life 3, what would it say? If you got an award. So again, spend 1 minute or 2 thinking about, imagine life 3 actually coming to fruition in the next 2 to 3 years, and what would that look like? Okay. Again, look at your gauges here. Chances are there's some of them that even before you start, you're absolutely clear that you would not have the money for it. But look at resources. Do you like it? How confident are you in your plan? Does it make sense? Are you aligned? Is it aligned with who you are? I'm curious to see how Wendy's space mission is aligned to who she is. Again, no judgment, just checking. But again, is it COVID-proof? Definitely a space exploration is COVID-proof for sure. So yes, so again, think about it in that particular sense and see whether a lot of what you've put in there is aligned to that. Okay, and then again, so as you're thinking about this, and as I said, I know we are sort of running out of time. This is just sort of a tester to let you know that you don't have to live one life, that there's so many avenues and so many paths for you to think about. And at the end of the day, whatever you do, the unattainable best is always the enemy of the achievable best. So the one that you think is practical and applicable, start. It's the same thing we tell entrepreneurs, just start. You'll figure it out as you go along the way. And the only way you will know that is the life you want to live is to start living it right now. And so, yes, so think about that. I can't stress this enough. All our best laid plans, when they hit reality of out there, when you go out there and you realize that, you know, the reality is completely different from what you think you want it to be, learning to be agile becomes absolutely important. So that's what I would say. And then what do you do now that you have a plan? And for those of you who might not have a plan now, and that's fine. Again, as I said, it's a really, really extensive exercise. How do you, in your day-to-day, find small ways to experiment with each life? Remember, this was around design thinking. So prototyping is extremely important. So if you decided that your plan B is the life that you really, really want to live, how do you start experimenting small, very, very small ways with that life? And let me go to the next slide for you to see. Wait, give me a minute. Oh, I missed it. So again, so prototyping, very, very small steps. So if you wanted to be a nurse manager, scheduling time with a nurse manager and asking what it feels like, what it looks like to work there is already a prototype. So you don't have to necessarily turn into a nurse manager today. We're just saying, how can you check how that life looks like right now for it to help you as you're framing a lot of what you're doing? So that's absolutely important. And then set the bar really low. Like, for example, for me, when I wanted to be more of a thought leader, one in my plan, I said I want to hold monthly master classes with HR professionals in Kenya. And I'll invite as many as possible. It was a very low bar because we're already doing them twice a month, twice every 2 months. But to me, it was just a small one. And then, so what information was I sharing? So set the bar extremely low on what you want, on how you're going to prototype, so that you're able to reach it. And because all you're looking for is to test your life. Test it in many ways. Interview people who are working there. Try and volunteer For me right now, I do a lot of youth employability volunteer. I am in a mentorship class for youth. I'm in what? Because I'm volunteering with my Plan 3, which I told you guys about. So again, try and experiment as much as you can. But in terms of next steps, in the next 4 weeks, what I'd like all of you to do is speak to people close to you about your plan. Absolutely important, but only when you're ready. So again, not all of it is formed right now. The people close to you will help you figure it out. One of the people I coach, I asked them to go and speak to their manager and say, listen, this is the plan I have. This is the plan B that I think is really important for me. Knowing me, what would go wrong? Knowing who I am, what would go right? So that they're able to give you feedback and see whether it aligns. So as you speak to them and understand, again, don't spend too much time. A product is only as good as when it meets the market. So again, don't spend too much time. Refine your plan, and then find people who are leaving your future. So again, it depends on what you want to be. So if you want to go into a certain space, find them. And again, this is a whole other, when you go, there's a session I think you have on networking. This is where you understand networking in a bit, because this is really around understanding how to get them on LinkedIn, find them, schedule time, interview them, understand whether they have a volunteering opportunity. You're not looking for a job. You're just trying to live their life and see how that looks like. And then speak to them. So find and speak to them is absolutely important for you to be able to see whether that is indeed sort of the life that you wanted to live. And I can't say this enough, 50% to 70% of jobs are filled through referrals and networking. So again, as I say, that's where you need to do. If I don't say anything else, try things, volunteer. Small changes, small shifts are absolutely important. And you have many lives. Don't take it too seriously. Okay, I know it has to pay bills, but don't take it too seriously. Try things out, move along. Try. If I gave you the journey of my career and how many things I've tried to get here, it amazes me every day. So don't be afraid to just try as you move along until you're in a place where you're feeling very, very comfortable with yourself. That's it from me. Unless there are any questions, anything that you'd like me to clarify, that is the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much, Doris. That was so interesting. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. So, guys, are there any questions for Doris? Yeah, any comments on the session? Okay, all right. So I don't know if you see Emmanuel's question.
So, Emmanuel has a question. Emmanuel, you're asking about shedding some light on being an executive assistant. I don't have all the answers, but the one thing I can tell you is that there's a COVID-proof way of being an assistant, which is a virtual assistant. And I know people like Pittman Training are offering some sort of a package where you're trained now and then you pay when you get a job. So go Google Pittman Training and see whether that's something that would be interesting for you. But yes, it's definitely a very good career. Most people who are looking for executive assistants are looking for people who are extremely rational. So you have to be, so it's no longer about scheduling, it's also around you being very analytical. But go to Pittman Training and see whether that would be something that you would be interested in. Go ahead, Barry.
Great. Yeah, I think to Emmanuel as well, just explore, like Doris has said, go online, go and check, find people who are executive assistants, get to really understand what it is that they do. Sometimes we like the idea of something. And then when we find out exactly what people do, then you're like, oh, okay, maybe it's not quite my cup of tea. Yeah, but that would, I think, really be helpful as well. Yeah, to help you to decide if that's a path that you'd like to pursue. All right. So, all right. Oh, someone's asking, do you do private sessions? I'm guessing they're asking about coaching. Doris, do you coach privately?
I do, but I'd like to leave that to Beryl to decide for me. This is Beryl's platform. So it would come through Beryl.
No, it's perfectly fine. So I don't know. Okay.
Wanjiru, I would ask you also to just reach out and we can have a chat and see. I don't know how I can help, but I'm happy to see if you want us to just chat.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? By the way, just to clarify, it's a chat, but it's also a chat where you've done some of the work. I would assume, Doris, that you'd expect them to at least have done some of the exploration you've shown. Yeah, I mean, it's not just about saying what's going wrong. Have you done some of the work that Doris would have put in place for you? Then, it's fair to ask out and to call her and ask for help. But if you haven't committed to doing the little she's shown you, I think that wouldn't be right. For her third life, she wants to also have meaning out of it, yeah? Okay. Any other questions for Doris? Okay. All right. So I'm going to guess. Please don't type in your own contacts there. Yeah. You could always just reach out to Doris directly, or if it's something you want outside of that, you can reach us directly. Yeah, but anyway, Doris, I just want to thank you so much. You've been very generous with your time. I know you have 100,000 other things you guys to reach out to you. So I would definitely, guys, if it's something that you would want to explore, because really what Doris is talking about is changing your career. That please just reach out to her, but do the homework.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not a session for just talking. Do the homework, and you'll find there's a lot of meaning towards that for you. Yeah, so in case you have anything else, you can reach out to us or Doris. Other than that, I just want to thank you so much. Okay, so Doris, anything else you want to share? And check out shortlist.net. Is it .com or .net?
.net, yes.
.net. Shortlist.net, yeah. Go look at the jobs there. They have a lot of resources as well, so you can also go and look at that. Okay.
Yeah, that's
anything else?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. So we have a lot of resources, we have jobs. I am probably not the right person to ask about a job because I don't, half the time I don't know which ones are active, but definitely go to our website.
Okay, so Doris, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great evening and see you tomorrow. Bye.
Okay, bye, guys.